Well, good evening once again, and welcome to the Monday Review Show. As most of you know who have been following the show for the last, more than a year, 12 months, 18 months or so, we discuss all things refereeing, incidents from games, etc. I would like to just point out that if you have a comment to make, please do so, but at all times, please be respectful of the show, be respectful of me, and most importantly, be respectful of my guest. Also, please don't make any comments that are in any way religious, political, personal, any of that sort of story. But otherwise, please send in your comments. You can swipe the bottom of your screen and you'll find a little area there where you can leave a comment. Delighted to have once again. We've become very good friends now, Keith. We're nearly becoming house friends, except for on one side of the Irish pond and I'm on the other. But great to have you back, Keith.
Good evening. Delighted to be on this show, Errol.
Lots of things, happening. There was an incident. I had a question already, by the way, and you may be familiar with this, and it's from John Matthew, who's in the USA, and he says, hi, Errol, I hope it's not too late, and if you think it's appropriate, can you ask Keith his thoughts on this? Recently, there was play where Lukaku of Chelsea received a pass in an offside position. He immediately shot on goal. The assistant referee, as instructed, kept his flag down. The shot was deflected over the line by the goalkeeper. The referee gave a corner kick. And then he has a personal comment. He says, isn't this obviously an incredible violation of the spirit of the game? VAR has produced their own laws. That's my opinion. I wonder what it has to say.
John, I think John's got a great question. I worry about the delayed flag. I understand why it's in operation, but I think it puts enormous pressure on the assistant referee. I remember this particular incident because I'm saying at that point that the shot is made and the ball goes out of play, that flag should have been raised and the offside given. Let's make no mistake, John is absolutely spot on. This is incorrect application of law. And I think that I'm seeing, if you like, this trend towards, well, we want to keep the game flowing and we don't want to interfere with play, and all those aspects. I applaud the MLS, and a very good friend of mine, Howard Webb, and a guy who's become a friend, Greg Barkey, because they are recognizing that how to operate VAR. The MLS is operating VAR much better than in the English Premier League and in other countries as well. And one of the reasons, because I had a recent communique with Howard, I've been in regular contact with Greg, is that they're operating VAR, allowing the referee still to be the man at the center of the decision. So in America, you can have a referee going to the screen and staying with his decision, even though VAR has come in on what might be a clear and obvious error. The referee's saying, I've seen it. I've got the feel of the game. I've got the spirit of the game. And I'm overruling the VAR. I'm sticking with my decision. Whereas in England, there's an automatic acceptance that if the referee is going to the screen, we all know that he's not going to change the decision of VAR. He's going to go with it. And I think that we had in England, given by the very fact that we had a number of our assistant referees operate at the World Cup final itself, the final game, Philip Sharp, Darren Can, Mike Malarkey, and others. And what we've seen is, in a way, an erosion of their ability to make decisions. And I just think about the assistant referee and think the dilemma of actually seeing a decision, and this could be halfway between the halfway line and the goal line in midfield, in the attacking half. They've seen an offside, and now they're not giving the offside decision, and their judgment invariably was a very high level of accuracy. They're now delaying the flag. We've got this risk of the goalkeeper coming out, the forward coming in, and getting a serious injury. It's not happened yet, but it's come close on one or two occasions. And then there's almost a situation, as in this case, the ball goes out for the goal kick, or it goes for let's say it goes for a corner kick, and the assistant referee is not coming in. And this is not how the law should be applied. And of course, then what happens is we get the restart mix up in terms of the position of the ball. They're almost taking the line of the assistant referee for an offside decision that's upfield.
I was just going to say that, Keith, about the injury to a player.
Yes.
If he's allowed to go on, and it's very dangerous, actually.
Yes.
Because a player could get injured for no apparent reason, no reason within the laws of the game, because he's offside, period. End of story. Well, I don't know what this whole thing is about. Oh, he's in an attacking position. I don't know what that means. He's offside, unless they mean the ball could go to the goalkeeper, so you're not slowing the game down. If that's their thinking. But I, like you, I can see a player getting a serious injury, maybe a top world class, like Kevin De Bruyne or somebody world class like Mo Salah or Harry Kane, or take your pick, getting a serious injury that maybe even a broken leg that could have them out for months on end.
Yeah, I mean, the principle of delaying the flag is they're actually taking into account that if that early flag is given, there's a chance that it's wrong. So what they're trying to do is, I've got assistant referees, or when I was the boss of BJMOL, we measured every offside decision through a product called ProZone. We could measure it accurately. We were, as assistant referees, around 98%, 98, 99, some weekends, 99% accurate on offside decisions. But what we're doing now is we're actually saying we're trying to cover for an assistant referee's error of a wrong flag offside, resulting in a goal being chalked off. And so what they're doing is, I understand that. I understand the philosophy of that. But we're getting decisions delayed when, it's not a minute fraction of an inch or a toe or a toenail offside. It's a very clear offside. And I just think that we should allow the assistant referees to make that judgment. And on this one, John's absolutely spot on. Well detected by him, because I was watching that game and I saw exactly the same thing. Lukaku was offside. The flag could have gone up at that point, should have gone up, in my opinion, at that point. But then when they gave a corner kick, if a goal had resulted, which it could have done from a set-piece corner kick, then I guess that someone might have been very unhappy.
Yeah, you see, that's the thing. I don't know who the referee was. I didn't see that particular game. But I would love to know what his thinking was. Did he not look across and see the assistant with the flag up? And if a goal had resulted, which could have been a winning goal, and all the implications and complications and permutations about that one goal wins a game, that's 3 points. Yeah. Similar to what happened with Manchester City and Everton recently, when they scored a goal, which is okay, but then Everton were denied a clear penalty. And that could, let's say, finish 1-1, which meant City would have dropped 2 points.
Yes.
Now, if City go on to win the league by 1 point, Liverpool will say, well, we should actually have won by a point, assuming, do you know what I mean, that they all keep winning.
Oh, I do.
I can see this thing. This is a major incident waiting to happen.
Yeah. I mean, if we go back 1 week to that Everton incident, and we look at it in detail, and I have investigated that forensically and made comments in the press. First of all, the ball might hit the bottom of the shirt sleeve, but that's not, as the media would often say, the shirt sleeve is the deciding factor as to whether it's handball or not. It's the arm level with the underside of the armpit. So that gives, I think, clarification in terms of why it was a handball. So it's a handball, it's not given. And you say to yourself, okay, let's have a look at the referee. He's in a reasonably good position. You would expect him to make a call, but he's got VAR. So what VAR has done in England is promote lazy refereeing. I said this at the beginning, that this would happen. And now what's happening is we get it. Yeah, it's very clear in the laws of the game. I'm glad you showed that picture. It's a line level with the underside of the armpit. If you take the media view that it's the shirt sleeve, then I'm telling you, if I was the manager of the team, the shirt sleeve would be down to the elbow.
Yeah.
Just to hide it and disguise it. So what we've got is we've got a handball not given. VAR didn't come in. Now I suggest in America the VAR would have come in, and the referee would have gone to the screen and they would have had a second look. So they got it wrong. But then within the broadcast time, we get a PGMOL, but a Premier League spokesman person coming out justifying that incorrect decision. I couldn't believe it when I was listening to it. And I'm thinking, who is that person that's made that comment? I then look, and the referee, the VAR was Chris Kavanagh. So this is a 3:00. This is a Saturday game. Thursday night, he was in Prague refereeing a Europa game, which meant that he would get home late-ish Friday into his home in the northwest. Saturday morning, he's either catching a train or a plane back down to London for Middlesex, where Stockley Park is, to do his VAR role. He's no time for recovery. And, you know, the VAR operation is about concentration.
Yeah.
And it's got all the technical equipment. There's time pressure that comes in. I understand that. But really with VAR, we should be getting a higher level of accuracy in decision making. This was a very, very poor decision. So what happens to the referee? What happens to Tierney? I have to tell you, on my watch, I would stand that referee down for a week. And that isn't punishment. It's to actually say, right, I want you to review and receive some operational advice. I want you to review that incident in detail. I want you to be sharper in terms of your operation. But ultimately, his boss was wrong to appoint him to the game. But that didn't happen. There's no level of accountability at the PGMOL. There's no real explanation. Mike Riley rings the manager and the thing because he's almost being forced to by the media, because everybody knows that this is a wrong decision.
I couldn't get my head around, just staying with this incident with the Manchester City Everton game. Actually, the other way, was it Everton? Man, was that Everton, wasn't it?
Yes.
Anyway,
maybe not.
But he was running towards the goal line, Rodri, in the penalty area, with the arm out, you know, making the body unnaturally bigger, as they call it.
Yes.
And Paul Tierney must have been running the same way, so he was behind him. It's not as if he was side on, but he would be running behind him. And I must say to the people watching there, this is not criticism of the referees. Keith and I are just trying to find a reason as to why the referee gave this decision or that decision. Yes. We were both there in the middle, in the big games. We know what it's all about. So we're very loath to criticize the referees, but we're just trying to find a reason. So I couldn't understand him running behind in the same direction as the player, how he couldn't see the arm outstretched from the body and moving forward. And then, you know, I can't remember. Did he go to the pitch side monitor? I'm not sure.
No.
But even if he did, ultimately he has the final say.
Yes.
And I said this many, many times. VAR stands for Video Assistant Referee. Emphasis on assistant, because that's what they're there to do. They are there to assist the referee, because Law 5 says, paraphrasing, the ref's decision is final. But there's a really important on the VAR.
there's a really important point that you make here. And this is, hopefully, referees will take this on board. There are times when players are moving away from you as a referee. And what's important is that sometimes, as a referee, you have to make the judgment of giving up proximity to play. That is, following the line of sight of the player, but actually veering left or coming in field or even going out wide in order to get an improved angle. And this is what Tierney didn't do. Tierney should have come where it was positioned, where the offence took place. If he'd have moved and squeezed play to the right, coming inside, not going to the D, but moving in that direction towards the D off the left wing, he may well have picked up a better viewing angle and not had, as often does happen regularly in the game, players, a defender behind an attacker covering the outcome. And therefore, that veering left or right, giving up distance to get a viewing angle is so important because I've mentioned before, the process of a referee is to see, to recognise, to think and act. That's what we do naturally when we're driving a car. As an example, this is no different in refereeing. That's the process. And if we don't see it, then we've got our assistant referees, if they're part of the team, to come in and help. And the assistant referee on this one could have come in my opinion, didn't. But VAR, crikey me, he's got the opportunity of stopping it, reversing it, slowing it down, and ultimately coming to the right decision. And let me tell you this, I think Tierney is a good referee. And I would have liked VAR saying, well, okay, come and have a look at the screen. The very point that in pro referee that Howard Webb is promoting, referee, go to the screen. Be seen to be the man in charge. Be seen to be the guy that sells the decision. It's your game. If I was Tierney and I hadn't seen it, and I come off, Errol, and I, in review, I get a manager coming in screaming, what about the handball? And I guess that's what Frank Lampard did, because I opened the door 30 minutes after the match. I'm saying this is allowed within the Premier League, providing it's the right approach. The manager can come in and discuss and clarify. I think if I was Tierney and I'd reviewed that decision, I'd be asking the VAR, what and how did you let me down on this? You know, because the VAR should cover the cracks. The idea of VAR is to aid the decision-making process. We're never going to get it 100%, but this is a big decision. It's cost Everton points. It could have impacted on the whole competition, and who knows? Everton, in the current position, are still in that element of, if you like, relegation.
And at one point, that 1 point saved them from relegation.
So I think it was. I hope the important thing is, and you've made a very valid point, we discuss these things on this show. I communicate in the media on a regular basis in order to educate and inform and give an insight. Refereeing is not easy. Refereeing is about physical effort, making the right calls, being in the right position. Experience, because this is what we're talking about, And then somebody said to me today, you're being a bit hard on match officials, Keith. Look, I helped to create the professional scene in England. These referees now, the majority of them, are earning more than the Prime Minister of England, salary-wise. If I'm demanding, it's demanding because I put in place sports science, sports psychology, nutrition, the ability to train 4 times a week, to just be involved and do refereeing. Don't have to work. Don't have the pressures of getting released to referee a football match like the most of us.
Indeed.
So I just think that we shouldn't demand. We expect more and should receive better from our referees.
On the VAR, Keith, there were a couple of incidents. This was one of them. This was, I think this was, who was it? Oh, this was Man City, and who are they playing? Let me play
Man United.
And Man United, sorry, yeah.
Yes.
And this was the assistant on the far side flagged because the guy went on to score. Mahrez, I think, went on to score.
Yes.
And then it was pulled back, and you can see there. It's not a very good picture.
Yeah.
What I'll do is I have a still photograph of it up here. This one here again. You see there now, and people say,
Yes.
"Oh, offside." The assistant flagged for offside.
Yes.
And on the face of it, it appears as if it is offside. Yes. But then when they brought in the VAR, and it came down literally, as you mentioned earlier, to a toenail.
Yes.
Again, dealing with, I'm going to put the cursor there. Can you see the cursor there, Keith? Yeah.
I can. Yeah. I can see it.
Again, the armpit of the City player and the foot of the United player.
Yes.
And that's what happened. He was deemed to be onside because the City, the United player's foot was forward that way.
Yeah.
And he was deemed to. Now, in that instance, VAR worked well. As it turned out, it was a goal, but even if it was disallowed, City was still winning 3-1 at the time, I think, and it wouldn't have made any difference. But in this instance, VAR did work well. And I really believe that it's important for justice not only to be done, but be seen to be done. And I know we are talking about the width of a cigarette paper or a toenail on something, but you know, whether you're a toenail offside or a million miles offside, you're offside, period.
Yes. Yes.
So is the argument a lot of people are saying to me, and I get regular contact with people like you do, and they're saying, you know, they should get rid of VAR. You know, it takes we don't want that certainty in the game anymore. We want somebody to talk about and sit in the pub afterwards and argue about. But I said, you're not talking about a football game now, and you're not talking about a sport anymore. Football is now a major business.
Absolutely.
A very lucrative business to some and a very expensive business to others. When you consider, for example, that a team getting promotion from the Championship to the Premier League in England, it's worth something like £160 million.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, you've got to go down to the minutest detail to see if a goal is scored or not. And that one goal, as happened with Liverpool and West Ham, Mane's goal was down literally to a toenail. It won the game for Liverpool, and they collected the 3 points. So, you know, it's important that justice is not only done but seen to be done. So people say, no, take it away. It's too controversial. It's not going to go away.
I think that what we have to recognise is, and I'm very much of the ilk that says, bring in the technology that improves the accuracy of decision making and offers assistance to the match officials in an appropriate manner. What we have at the moment is we've got the technology. You know, I look back at my days and look, I brought in the communication kits, Errol. I watched a game of rugby and said, why can't I have that? And I went to the Premier League. They had plenty of money, and I just said, this is what I want to do. And they said, go and do it. So I spent 350,000 on the communication kits. Then we had and they worked really well. You know, trying to find a flag in a stadium in the sunshine, and having refereed in Africa, trying to find it sometimes is very difficult when there's multicolours around. Yeah. And so having that aid and seeing it in rugby, I brought it in. There was some calls from Blatter saying, how can you do this without going IFAB and all that? And I've gone, well, I've done it and it's working. And I've forced it in. And then a couple of years later, I stood up at the conference of the Premier League, the summer conference, and they asked me, Blue Sky thinking, what would you like to introduce? And I said, I now want to go goal line technology. I put forward the reasoning. I showed them the film clip of Clattenburg at Old Trafford against Tottenham. We brought in the goal line technology. What I did though, with
was that the one where the ball was way over the line? Who was it?
Roy Carroll of Manchester United.
Roy Carroll, yeah,
it was
well over the line, yeah.
There was no chance of the match officials seeing it. They can't guess. So we developed that. I developed that with Hawkeye. We spent about a year. Thanks to Fulham and Motspur Park, they allowed us to examine it and use it there. And I said to Hawkeye, I want the decision-making process without a human being involved. I want it straight from the software to the ear of the referee that it's that's a goal and not a goal. And in a way, I think that what we've got with VAR is we've got the kit, we've got the system. It's expensive. What we haven't got right in England is how it operates, because we're abdicating the responsibility of the referee to be the sole decision maker, to be the decision maker. And if we have that guy going to the screen and he says ultimately, I disagree with VAR, I'm staying with the decision, or I'm going with the decision, there will be a greater acceptance. So what do we need to do? I think what we need to do is to do what rugby does, and that is to say, right, let's hear the discussion between the referee and the VAR. Let's be transparent with that. Let's just like rugby. Secondly, I don't think it's conducive to a scenario where you've got a very experienced referee out in the middle and you're asking a referee who's just come onto the panel to be the VAR, or the reverse, because I don't think the relationship right. So I think that the VAR refereeing panel, as they are, should in fact be former referees. I'm not looking for a job, by the way. I've retired. But I do think that if
you never retire, Keith. Don't you know when you retire, you're in God's waiting room? Don't you know that?
If you could look at people like Dean Atkinson and others who are at that retirement age. Dean, I think 53, 54 now. Yeah. They could make good VAR operators, but retrain them. But ultimately, I'm getting to the point where every decision, not offside, but any other decision, it's referee to the screen and it's your call. And ultimately, then there's got to be accountability. So what's the next stage? I like the idea of VAR Lite that's been developed by FIFA. It's been trialed in Brazil and in Poland at this moment in time. It's less cameras. I believe the VAR operator is going to be at the stadium. This is what happens generally in the MLS. There's teamwork, there's togetherness, there's accountability post-match. What we've got is that we've got a guy stuck in Stockley Park, and there appears to be no post-match review in depth or accountability of the decisions that have been made, because it's shared experiences. I can remember having these top-class referees in the room, listening to the debate, actually throwing, if you like, the occasional bomb into the room of a question and getting back to law. But out of it, we would get the younger referees learning off the experienced referees, and sometimes the older referees being put to task by saying, hold on, just a minute, that's not the law. You're interpreting that incorrectly. You're putting your own spin. So I think there's a lot of education still to be done in England around VAR.
Hide it for the moment. I think we may have discussed it, I think we discussed it over WhatsApp and things like that, but I don't think I've ever shown you the video. This is the final of the African Cup of Nations between Senegal and Egypt. Sadio Mane was playing for Senegal. Mo Salah was playing for Egypt. And let me put the thing in context. At this stage now, the manager of Egypt is on a red card, so he's not there.
Yeah.
That was Carlos Queiroz, who was assistant manager
Yeah.
to Alex Ferguson.
Yes.
A guy called Roger de Sa, very experienced and international for South Africa, who's his assistant.
Yes.
He's also not on the touchline. So it's
Yeah.
left number 3 or wherever that may be. But I have never seen Mo Salah bitch and moan so much as I had at this particular final. He's in the referee's ear all the time. You watch him playing for Liverpool. I don't think he's even been booked in his life.
No.
He's not that type of player, but he's in the referee's ear all the time. He's obviously told to do that because he's the captain, because the coach and the assistant coach had been red carded. But it got to the stage where the referee had had enough. And I don't know if you've seen this clip.
No.
I'll show you anyway. Now, what's happening is the referee is saying to him, look, if you think you can do better, here's the whistle, here's the yellow and red card, you do it. And Salah said, well, get away. And just play it again for you. And as I normally do, 3 times. Here, you do it. Now, I write an article every week for the City Press in South Africa, and I wrote an article about that. And I said no referee at any time should even indicate that he's going to surrender his authority to a player.
Correct.
The player had said, okay, give that to me. The referee has half a dozen eggs all over his face. Now, a lot of people criticized me for that. I had a text from the guy, from the referee. I know the guy very well.
Yes.
Good referee, very good referee, very strict. He said to me that, oh, you weren't there and and you weren't this and you weren't that. And I'm saying, I'm not criticizing you, Victor. I'm just saying what you should not have done.
Yes.
And I hope your assessors and your mentors will talk to you about it. You never, ever, ever surrender your authority.
No.
What do you think?
I agree with you. And in fact, I think I commented on social media in the same way.
You did.
On 2 areas. I think, first of all, you're absolutely right. I think it's important that referees don't get frustrated. That, you're going to have... This was a top game. It was a great appointment to have. You want the game to go well for the referee. And there's no doubts that Salah was completely over the top. I think that Victor had every right to yellow card.
Yeah, that's what I would have done.
Apply the law. Don't try and be friendly. Apply the law. I think that when you make that gesture, you're in trouble. Now, one of the things that I when I'm coaching referees, I say that it's important to be neutral. The body language, I think Victor's body language was perfectly okay, by the way. So he wasn't going to erode his authority. His body language looked fairly authoritative. Yeah. So on that aspect, now in that situation, I would have said very clearly, I want an improvement in your behavior. And if he's then still going at my ear, right, he's got the yellow card pushed right in his face. I mean, I don't mean that literally, but the card comes out. Because I think that is the route. The route isn't to say, here's my cards. There was one other thing that I probably, in a way, want to apologize to Victor, because I sort of received a note and then a photograph of his colleagues taking selfies on the field of play post-match. And I thought on what I'd seen, that Victor had been involved in that in terms of him having his own selfie with a particular player. Let me tell you, that's completely and utterly out of order. It sends the wrong message. What happens if you're refereeing this player in a few months or a couple of years' time? Fans will remember that you had a selfie. So, look, this is no different if somebody's going to present you with a shirt on the field of play or whatever, it's a no-no.
Don't do it.
You have to be absolutely impartial.
Yeah.
And so to the assistant referee, and I think there were two of them. There was a lady as well. They had the selfies taken. That's a no-no. It sets a bad example. And if I'm the guy who's going to appoint them, I'm not in FIFA going to appoint them to a game. That's not my role. But that somebody is, and they might be wanting them to go and referee a game involving that particular player, then in that situation, you'd be saying that's no.
And the perception that's created there.
Yes.
People will look back and say, oh, you remember that 50-50 challenge? He gave it to them and didn't give it to us.
Yeah, exactly that.
What are the Egyptian players saying? There were no Egyptian players getting selfies taken with the referees. It was only the winning team.
Yes.
And the perception that creates, oh my goodness, I nearly went crazy when I saw it.
Yeah, so did I.
Photograph at the start of the game.
Yeah.
Before the game, you had the official photograph, and that's all you should. Taking selfies, oh my goodness, no. Absolutely out of the question. They have to be seen to be neutral at all times.
I'll tell you,
judge having a chat with the defense before a trial takes place, or with the you never see that because they have to be seen to be neutral, and referees are in the same boat.
I can remember watching a game. I was at a tournament, so there was a team of officials, and I was going to be refereeing the next game. And I sat with the match delegate, who was a French guy, out in Mexico at a tournament. And the referee stood in the middle of the pitch and blew the whistle for the captains to come. And the referee moved about 10 yards to the captain of the home team off his centre point position. So he's near the arc of the centre circle to shake his hands. And he came back. Waiting for him was, of course, the opposition captain that was stood at the thing. And I can remember being on the end of a lecture by that French match delegate saying, look, Keith, look at the picture that's been painted.
Yeah.
And at the time, as a young referee, I'm thinking, nah, I don't go with that. You know, the referee's a very mature referee and very experienced referee. But over the years, I now agree with that. And it is so important in the modern game, particularly when, you know, if you're a professional referee in the Premier League, for example, or you're refereeing in Africa or in America, and you're getting teams regularly, which happens in you know, I mean, there was one season, a couple of seasons back, when Michael Oliver refereed Liverpool 7 times in a season. Can you imagine? You know, and this is no different to, I can remember running the line very early in my career in an FA Cup, and it was a first division side against the 4th division. And the referee, you could hear him saying, Mike, come up the line a bit, come up the line. I want the throw-in taken from the Mike, to this guy, the player of the Premier League, if you like, the first division. And you could see these 4th division players being treated, hey, you, there, I want the ball there. And you could see the picture was being painted of relative unfairness.
Yeah, so, I don't know why referees do that. Why do they call players by their first name? They should just call them number 9 or number 8 or whatever. Should not call them by their first name. And I think it's too much palsy-walsy.
I think that we have a job to do. We're policemen policing the game.
Well, judge and jury as well.
Yeah, and you know, it's interesting, isn't it? How I was saying to someone at the weekend how strong referees gain a reputation, and that reputation sticks and becomes an easier task to referee games going forward. You know?
Yeah. I used to say to my referees, when you're going to a ground for the first time,
yes,
you've got to be assertive and strong, not hard as nails per se, because if you project a weakness in at your first visit, forget it. The next time you go there, you can be as tough as hell.
Yeah.
Make no difference because they know there's a weak point.
Well,
So,
you know from the sports psychology side that any referee that's officiating in an unknown environment, there's added pressure. So what we used to do is if somebody's been lined up to go to Anfield, Old Trafford, Arsenal, or whatever, the big clubs, the big grounds, we would send that referee there as fourth official in order to understand the geography of the game, the atmosphere, so that it's part of, if you like, the preparation. And I would suggest to young referees that if they're going to a ground that they've not been to before, go an hour earlier than you would normally go and just walk around the field, the dressing room and its position, if you like, to the stadium itself. How long a walk is it to the stadium? All those sort of scenarios help to reduce, if you like, the tension. And you can be there in having a look at the pitch as the crowd comes in and build up. So there are all ways of, if you like, preparing for the match.
Keith, great talking to you again. And thank you very much for making yourself available. I will no doubt be back on to you again because as we come towards the season, there'll be lots of things happening. I want to say thank you to all the people who sent in the questions. Unfortunately, we didn't have enough time to get around. There was a few other things I wanted to ask. Just one more, Keith, if you don't mind. And I know you've commented on it already. Is it this one here? Yeah. Arteta acting as ball boy.
Yeah.
Oh my God. How far he is outside his technical area. No, it's not a great picture. I thought the TV guys would zoom in closer to show it. But you see how far he's outside his technical area.
He's miles out of his technical area. There's no question about that.
That led to goal.
Yeah. What we've got is an erosion of values in terms of application of laws of the game. We don't want to be prim and proper, but we want to have some degree of authority as match officials. The fourth official, and not him alone, but other fourth officials in the Premier League, are not doing their job as efficiently as they should do. And I think that the fourth official should have got in there much earlier. But we're actually seeing this as a regular. We see Jurgen Klopp ecstatic about a goal being scored. He's actually got a bit better in recent weeks. But earlier in the season, he was running 10, 15 yards down the line.
Mourinho used to do that as well.
Mourinho was a regular.
I
can remember on one occasion, in fact, he finished up with a fine because I sort of suggested to the FA that what he did was unacceptable. I was the boss of the PGMOL then. He slammed a laptop or an iPad. It was. He had an iPad. He grabbed it off a technical support guy that was outside the technical area, picked it up and threw it to the ground and smashed it in a fit of temper against the decision. And I reported it, saying that this was undermining the authority of match officials. It wasn't good for the image of the game. And so I think that, I've been ticked off a bit this week on social media because I commented on this. But Arteta, as his act was an act of unsporting behaviour because he was outside his area. He grabbed the ball and pitched it to a player who went on a number of passes afterwards and scored. A goal was scored. They gained an unfair advantage. So for me, referees have allowed this drift. And it's all in the interests of who is in charge of referees. And are referees applying the laws of the game as they are written, or are they applying the laws in the way that the media and television want them to be applied? And I think there's a dilemma because this is no different. I was pleased again, and I come across, Errol, in terms of what the Howard Webb is doing at the MLS, because they have points of importance that I think that's the terminology. And one of those is that they are policing very closely. They've informed the clubs, they've informed the media, they've informed everybody that they're unhappy with the restarts. and the time delays that's taking place. So they are focusing their match officials on saying, right, we want the game restarting as quickly as possible, that they themselves will be acting in a way that speeds up the process, and they're expecting the clubs to respond accordingly. Premier League, listen in, do that, because the fans at the moment are getting, on average, 54 minutes of actual playing time in a Premier League game.
Crazy, isn't it?
Not good.
Great. Thanks again, Keith.
Pleasure.
Great talking to you as always, and I'm sure we'll be back on to you again.
Great.
Everybody
Anytime,
else, thank you for watching, and I hope you can join us again next week, same time, 7 p.m. UK time. Until then, good night, and God bless you all. Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thanks, Errol.
Cheers, Keith.